would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. Here we are, folks. We're over the hump. We're almost to the end of the week. I hope that all of you are making great headway on whatever goals you've got set for yourself this week. Everything's in the air for me, I tell you. I have so many different balls in the air right now in terms of paths forward that I'm trying to keep intact. I don't have any more information on that possible lot that I found the other day that I mentioned to everyone, in terms of just keeping everyone up to date on my real world experience of trying to move forward with different investment options. I'm hoping I'll have an update for you either tomorrow or Monday. So hopefully we'll get some good information there. Now, as everyone knows, or should know by now, the beginning of a new month is when we jump in and do the drawing for the $50 gift card for Amazon. The lucky winner will be picked from those who went to the website at therebelbroker.com, who clicked the red button at the top that says take the survey to support the show, provided the same email address both times you were asked, and answered a handful of questions. Once that was done, you were entered to win. I noticed a big burst of folks at the beginning of this week that went ahead and jumped in. Thank you very much for doing that. You're not only putting yourself in the drawing for a $50 gift card, but you're also helping the show grow, and I absolutely appreciate everyone who takes the time to do that. As I've mentioned previously, we've handed out $200 so far to 4 different lucky winners, and I am going to be reaching out to the person that I drew Wednesday at 5 p.m. I promised everyone that I would wait until Wednesday after towards the end of business day before doing it. I'm going to send an email, or I've sent an email out to the person who won, just waiting for that person to reply so I can verify. If that person doesn't verify, if I don't get a verification from that person within a day or two, then I jump back in and pull out someone else. I haven't had to do that yet, so hopefully we don't have any problems in terms of folks having either mistyped their email address or used a disposable email address that they're no longer using, something along those lines. But just to let everyone know, it is happening, and I'll be able to give you the lowdown on whether or not I was able to find someone to give $50 to. All right. As always, in addition to being able to participate in that survey and get yourself in the drawing for a $50 gift card, you can also reach out to me. You can find the show notes there that are posted every day that a show occurs. You can also reach out to me directly through clicking contact and then send me a message with anything that you might want to share with me. So feel free to do that. Interesting topic for today. The folks over at Trulia have released what I think is an interesting list, because it's not the list you would expect. It does not have the cities on it that I expected. It does have some cities that I think make sense given what we've talked about, particularly what we talked about yesterday. It's funny how day to day we're finding more and more dovetailing going on between past stories and stories we're covering as we go. Now, this particular story is talking about the housing shortage and high home prices that have hit 10 markets the hardest. So it's all about that mismatch in terms of searches. Let me try to give you the lowdown on what they're actually going for here. Market mismatch is Trulia's measure of search interest versus available listings. It's the difference between the price point where the bulk of searches occur and the average price point of listed properties. For example, if 60% of buyers are searching for starter homes, but only 40% of the listings are starter homes, the market mismatch scored for a starter homes would be 20. The article goes on to state that the greatest deficit occurred in starter homes and trade-up homes with shortfalls of 5.7 and 5.3 percentage points respectively. In the premium price category, however, there was a surplus of 11 percentage points. Now remember, premium prices, if for you personally, are going to change from region to region, right? A premium price in Waco, Texas is not going to be a premium price in San Jose, California, right? So that is a moving target. It should be relative to the market that you're in. Now, they did this research into 100 metros areas, the largest 100 metro areas in the United States. And we're going to cover the top 10, but I'm going to suggest you head on over to Trulia and check these numbers out and see where these disconnects are in your local marketplace or in the marketplace where you currently invest or where you're most interested in investing. Why? It's going to give you a good indication on where high levels of interest are versus how well they're being serviced. It's not just about where the greatest disconnects are, although that's a good thing to know. It's also about being able to figure out whose needs aren't being taken care of. Now, it's usually a pretty easy thing to figure out that the folks at the absolute low end are not getting serviced well enough. But if you can find these areas with some dramatic differences, you may be able to better tailor your investment strategy based on this data. Now, this is clearly going to work best for folks who are doing a buy and flip strategy where you are potentially trying to calibrate yourself to what price point should you be in? Where should you be in terms of budget? Does it make sense for you, for instance, to buy a home and invest in it enough to bring it up to that premium mark? If there's already a huge surplus of premium properties and there's more than enough homes to satisfy the demand, well, then maybe you don't need to do that. Maybe you actually keep the expenses down a little bit lower because you want to move that home quickly. Not necessarily stating that you settle for making less, but simply get that selling quickly is often as attractive for potentially selling for a higher price 6 months later, right? It's better to, in many cases, when you do the math, it's better to reduce your price, sell within a month, rather than keep a high price and sell 6 months later, right? Those holding costs can really eat away at your profits. All right, so I thought we'd go through and count these down from number 10 down to number 1. And these are, again, if you've listened to yesterday's show, this is going to ring some bells for you. Now let's go ahead and jump in at number 10, which is Tampa, St. Petersburg, Florida. Now, while Tampa, St. Petersburg, Florida was not in the top 20 of the list yesterday of the most desirable places to live, the 100 or the best places to live in the United States, it has been on lots of other lists in terms of desirability for investment. I believe it was on our return on investment list last year. So interesting to consider that in the context of other information we've covered, but then also to look at it from the standpoint of what segments of the buying market aren't being served. Now, Tampa, St. Petersburg got an overall score of 12.2, and the percentage of searches for starter homes was 28.9%, but the number of listings was only 16.7%, which is the percentage of total listings made available. The percentage of home searches for trade-up homes was 30.9% versus the trade-up home listings were 24.8%. Percentage of searches for premium homes, 40% versus premium home listings, 58.5%. Now, see, this is a perfect example of really setting your expectations more realistically given the level of demand in terms of a rehab or a remodel or whatever it is that you're doing to your home in terms of where you want to be price-wise. Maybe it doesn't make sense for you to get that Viking cooktop, that built-in refrigerator, and all the other extra goodies that would be very appealing, but might have you having a home sitting in a marketplace where there's just too much competition. When you've got 40% of the searches for premium homes, but there's 58.5 of the listings out there are of that type, that indicates more competition for you given other market segments. Now, that's true in general terms. However, the other piece of vital information that you're going to need when you're using these numbers to integrate into your investment strategy is still understand that these are percentages. Even though only 40.2% of buyers are searching for premium homes, there may be 100, let's just use round numbers, 100 buyers who fall into that category, where if you took the total number of buyers, 40.2 of them might be 100 people who are doing that search, whereas 58.5% of the listings might only equal 50 homes. Under that scenario, that sure does mean you're still going to see plenty of demand for that premium home. So make sure that you're calibrated to what's going on in your market as well. Now, if you've got a real estate agent working with you, they can go through and check out these numbers to give you an idea of the actual numbers, the actual number of listings, and you can kind of get calibrated to the overall numbers as well. In terms of buyers, you can review past data in terms of what has sold, but I was not able to get the level of clarity I would have liked to be able to make that distinction based on the data from the Trulia report itself. Now, of course, as I always do, I will include a link to the article that covers this subject, and I'll also include a link to the Trulia report that gives a little bit more data on this. I was hoping they'd have a resource where I could download some of the raw numbers, because it's not always as simple as running the numbers like this in terms of direct percentages, exclusively looking at what percentage of homes for sale are starter homes, what percentage are premium. I want to know the relationship between the number of homes that are out there versus the number of people who are trying to buy them. That's what I look for. And what you then end up looking for in terms of that data is what were the number of homes that sold, and you want to take a look at that not only got sold, but also tried to get sold. What was the total number of homes on the market versus the number that actually sold? The number of sold are the ones where buyers obviously found a home. So you want to figure out how much momentum you have there. Another way to get an idea of this is how many homes are going for above asking price, because those are cases clearly when there was more than one buyer. All of these things are things you can kind of suss out with your real estate agent and get that data going. And it's all designed to help you build a greater level of comfort with all of this. Okay, that was the long-winded version of number 10, which was Tampa, St. Petersburg. Sorry, I wanted to lay some groundwork because I don't want you to just take these numbers necessarily and run with them. I want them to give you things to think about, but I also want you to think about the things that these numbers don't tell you. All right, so I think we did that pretty well with this one. The rest will probably go a little better. Number 9, absolutely one, I believe, that was on our list. Let me just check real quick. I want to see what number it was. Let's see. Yes, right. So San Antonio, Texas was number 9 on this list with 12.3. We didn't cover it yesterday because it did not make the top 20. But in my review of the longer version of that list, I noticed this city was there, but I was just noticing how many Texas cities were there. San Antonio came in as number 23 in the best places to live in yesterday's article that we discussed. And remember, yesterday's show will have a link to that list so you can check where your community came in or the community that you're interested in investing in. San Antonio's number was 12.3. The percentage of searches for starter homes was 12.2. That's kind of interesting. That is a very small number of buyers that are looking for starter homes. Remember, in Tampa, we saw nearly 30%. This is only just over 12%. The number of starter home listings, 5.8%. So still very underserved, but there's really not a whole lot of demand at that level. Let's see. The percentage of searches for trade-up homes in San Antonio, 32.5% versus trade-up home listings, 20%. So there's over a 12% discrepancy between those two in terms of desire on the part of buyers versus availability of that inventory. But this one's kind of interesting because there's obviously there's got to be a sweet spot there. It seems to me that for you to get that great payoff in San Antonio as it relates to discrepancies of demand versus supply, you're going to be somewhere probably between that trade-up home and that premium home. The percentage of searches for premium homes, 55.3%, but the premium listings, 73.3%. So there's an awful lot of premium listings out there with a much smaller representative sample of buyers who are actually looking for that kind of home. Number 8, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Grand Rapids should sound very familiar. It was number 19 on our list yesterday in terms of the best places to live in the United States, according to the folks over at U.S. News and World Reports. The Grand Rapids, Michigan number was 13.1 overall. We don't really care about the overall number, right? We're a little bit more interested in figuring out how those markets are segmented. This is falling in line a little bit more with what I would expect. In Grand Rapids, the percentage of searches for starter homes was 28.4%. The number of home listings that were falling into that category that were starter homes was 20.4%. So not as much of a disconnect in the previous two communities, but still a decent disparity between those two, the supply versus the demand. The percentage of searches for trade-up homes in Grand Rapids came in at 29.4%, so just shy of 30%. And the trade-up home listings were at 17.7%. So that shows an area of a great deal of discrepancy between the two. Great opportunity for someone who's looking for an area of the marketplace where there's a greater demand than other parts of the market. The percentage of searches for premium homes, 42.2%, versus premium home listings of 61.9%. So again, another market where we're seeing nearly 20% discrepancies between the number of listings of premium homes versus the number of folks out there actually searching for them. Number 7 on our list, Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville did not make the top 20 of the best places to live in the U.S. yesterday, but it did make it into the top 30. It was 29 on that list. The overall score for Greenville, South Carolina was 13.4. The percentage of searches for starter homes was 20.5, and the number of home listings that were categorized as starter homes was 13.3% of the total inventory. Percentage of searches for trade-up homes was 31.7 versus trade-up home listings of 18.9. Percentage of searches for premium homes was 47.8 versus the premium home listings at 67.8, which again, just 20 percentage points difference between those two in the direction of not stressing premium homes. And this is a question I get frequently here in the Bay Area because I in a lot of ways, because there's this moving target as it relates to premium, right? At what point does a home become premium? And what's creepy is here in the Bay Area, that number is over $1 million, probably 1.3. We've talked about the different price banding that I've noticed in my marketplace where for whatever reason, homes suddenly just take longer to sell once you get over a certain amount of money, or a certain level of expectations are set once you get over a certain amount of money. And in my local marketplace, that's about 1.3 million is when things tend to really slow down. That premium phrase is probably a moving target. Maybe it's something that just accounts for maybe that the top 15% of properties that sell if you're trying to put a number on it. But it's something you want to be aware of. I think when folks, I've talked to developers before who have tried doing it both ways, where they've done flips or developments or purchased a land and built a home on it, and wanted to really cater to that high end, and were ultimately able to succeed. And this has been a few years since this one, so the markets were a little slower when this one went down, but they held that thing for an awful long time. So they had to handle all the costs, maintain all the monthly expenses, all that kind of stuff. It took well over a year and a half to get that home sold. And I just can't help thinking that if they had done a development that would have been just under that threshold of premium, that thing would have sold in probably 60 days. At the time, things weren't quite as robust as they've been over the last couple of years, but it was robust enough at that price point that they probably could have gotten their money back and walked away. Did they still end up making more money? Probably a little bit, but not having the usability of the money from the transaction, having all that cash wrapped up in that deal for so long, who knows how many deals they missed in the intervening time that they could have taken advantage of. Because remember, it's not even just the cost of taxes, insurance, mortgage, debt servicing, all these other things. It's also your time and the money that's wrapped into it that you now can't use for other things. The loss of access to other transactions that you could be doing while that thing's sitting on the market. So always make these decisions. Don't just go for that singular brass ring because you think you're going to be able to build this $2 million home in a market where the average price is $800,000 or $600,000. I think you're going to just walk away with piles and piles of money. Now, is there a market where that might work if you do the math and you calculate? Absolutely. But by and large, you're going to want to do that math. Too many folks don't do that math and never really get themselves calibrated to the true costs associated with making certain investment decisions. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to jump into number 6 on our list, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner-broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909.
Welcome back, everyone. We have been going through our list of the greatest discrepancy between desire and supply, right? A great thing to know, if you know what people want and you know the relationship between what they want and whether or not it is there for them, well, that as a person who is providing a product to them, if you're a real estate investor, that's what you're doing. You're providing either a flipped home, a remodeled home that you're going to flip, and you're going to cater to a specific segment of the marketplace with that flip. It can help you make the right decision in what type of home you buy. It can help you make the right decision in what sort of upgrades you make to that property before you're going to try to sell it. And it can help you make a decision on what different segment of the market in terms of asking price you would like to be in order to get the fastest transaction possible. That not only gives you a positive cash return, but then frees you up to go on to that next deal and make it happen all over again. We just talked about we're doing the top 10, so we're counting it down from 10 on down. We just talked about, what did we just talk about? Greenville, South Carolina. And now we're on to number 6 on our list, which is another one that should sound familiar. Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, Florida. We've brought this area up before. Now, it did not appear in the top of the list of best places to live. It was way down there, I think at 80-something. But it's been on plenty of our other lists. So if it's one that you're interested in, clearly this would be a great way to calibrate yourself to what folks are looking for versus what's actually available. And in terms of growth, I think when the big one that stands out to me is that this area stood out in terms of, I think was it growth? I don't think it was actual appreciation, but I think it was in rent growth. We did that list a couple of months back. Anyway, let's jump in and take a look at the searches versus the inventory. Percentage of searches for starter homes in the Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, Florida area is 23.9% versus the starter home listings at 14.4% of the inventory. So almost a 10% discrepancy there. That's one of the bigger discrepancies I think we've seen of the communities we've covered in this top 10. The percentage of searches for trade-up homes, 34.2% versus the number of trade-up home listings, 23.1%, so over a 10% discrepancy there. Percentage of searches for premium homes is at 41.9 versus the number of home listings, 62.9. Again, about a 20% discrepancy between those two. God, did we, I almost think, didn't we do part of a show where we drilled down to the actual house level in Daytona Beach? I could almost swear we did that. That might have been a while ago, though. And the reason I'm hovering over this one a little bit is I'm always interested in areas that have absolute clarity of why people would go there, right? Now, a good example is my vacation property in Hawaii. There's no mystery on why people would go there. It's Hawaii for one thing. It's obviously a vacation spot. That's why I did a vacation rental instead of a long-term rental. It's right on the water. So if you're gonna have properties in various places, I think one of the biggest things you can do is figure out why would someone want to live there? What is it that draws them there? Is the primary draw in my area the beauty of the location? Probably not. It's because there are so many freaking jobs north of here. People need someplace to live that's slightly less expensive than San Jose. This place does have a lot to offer, but really that's one of the primary motives, right? Daytona Beach strikes me just because there's so many different things. There's different things that happen at Daytona, whether we're talking about races or we're talking about spring break. There's a variety of different things that draw people there, right? So you can blend those sorts of observations and understandings with data we get here and figure out strategies that make sense for you, whether these numbers make sense for you to do a buy and flip or a buy and hold. Because another way you can figure this out is, where are the areas where you have the least amount of competition? Now, clearly, most of these are showing that premium homes have the least level of competition. I'm not usually a huge fan of taking a vacation rental scenario and applying a premium home to that. Although you can, I know folks who've done it. I have a member of my family who has some ridiculously expensive property in Hawaii, just like. We're talking, he went Honolulu side, and he's in one of the high rises that is so high it has a completely unobstructed view of the water. It's not on the water; it's in downtown, but it's super high end. I mean, when I talk to him about the numbers, it's just mind boggling. But he rents it for thousands of dollars a day, kind of a thing, and he gets that. So you can absolutely play in that rarefied air. I'm lucky enough to be able to occasionally dip my toes in it to at least have conversations with people who are doing that kind of stuff and doing it successfully. But man, I think there's a level of investment maturity that I think you need in order to make that stuff work. And the bottom line is financial security that you can exercise to make that stuff work. All right. Number 5 on our list, Fort Worth, Texas. And you guessed it, Fort Worth also made best places to live in our discussion yesterday. It came in at number 15. Fort Worth presents an awful lot of different things that I think make it potentially worth considering. The job situation there seems to be pretty good. I'd want to get more ground truth on what is going on there, but Fort Worth looks like a very promising location for investing. Now, the percentage of searches for starter homes is at 19.5% versus the actual number of listings being 9.6% of the total inventory. Again, about a 10% discrepancy there. Percentage of searches for trade-up homes, 28.9 versus trade-up home listings of 17.3, over a 10% discrepancy there. So that's a little bit on the larger side and interesting. Simply because I think that's a bread and butter number, right? If you're somebody who's pushing for being able to provide a property at a price point that's going to give you a good opportunity to potentially make profit off of the improvements you make, see, that's kind of it, right? The trade-up home, it feels like the strongest part of the market to do that in a lot of these locations. I think that indicates to me that this would be something that might draw my eye more in a Fort Worth scenario rather than some others. Now, the percentage of searches for premium homes is 51.7% versus premium home listings of 73%. That's over 20%. So a little bit more lopsided in terms of being more homes on the market that are at the premium end than folks that seem to be looking at the premium end. what can you do with that? So if you're let's say you're not an investor. Let's say you're one of my listeners who just kind of has an interest in real estate, but you're looking more to buy. Maybe you're looking to buy your first home and trying to figure out where things make sense. If you can go into a community like Fort Worth, Texas, find out what the premium homes are, and try to get up. And if you can go to this level, granted, this might be a difficult talk for someone who's just starting out and trying to buy that first home. You'd be more in the starter home category, right? Where there's tons of demand and not a whole lot of homes to fill the demand. But let's say you're not. Let's say you're in a position where you've owned a home, you're looking to move. For me, as a person who would be looking to have a insight into negotiation ability, or how much flexibility might I have, given the lower level of interest of premium homes, it follows that you would then have an ability to potentially negotiate that price down a lot more than these other homes. So just something else to keep in mind as you're moving through here. And again, it's a lot of it's going to be about calibrating the actual numbers. I mean, if you have 200 folks each month looking to buy a home and only 100 homes in each one of these categories that are actually available, it still ends up being a very seller-focused market. But if you can get calibrated to what that real number is, it's going to give you that next layer of data that's going to help you make better decisions based on these numbers. Number 4 is Raleigh, North Carolina. And for those of you with a decent memory from yesterday's show, you'll know that, yes, it was in the top 20 of the best places to live, according to the good folks over at US News. It was also in the top 10 and just barely missed being in the top 5 by 2, as it came in at number 7 in terms of the best places to live. So in addition to that, we can also get some insight into what's the demand versus supply situation as folks are looking for homes. Now, the searches for starter homes, 24% of buyers are searching for starter homes versus only 10% of the homes being of the starter variety. And that's a tough one. You know, I wish there was a way to really come in as an investor and make things hum for you at that desirability level. But I just don't see it happening. The only way I can see it happening is for folks who go in and actually buy land and build, and then just trying to cater to that potential market. Not sure. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of discussions we can have on that. I've often fantasized, what things would I do if I wanted to try and tap that market, right? Because the folks who are looking for a starter home, their money is just as good as everyone else's. They're going to get those loans. It's not like it's not like you're taking risks based on the loan that they're going to get. For me, I think my big thing would be to go for the townhouse scenario or the townhouse style. I realize when I say stuff like that, folks in other parts of the country get a completely different idea of what it is. If you're on the East Coast, maybe you'd think of it more as a brownstone kind of thing. A townhome is usually something where you share a wall on each side. And you belong to an association, perhaps, of other folks, and all the common areas are maintained through a homeowners association, that type of thing. But anyway, that's sort of a walking into the weeds a little bit. So Raleigh, North Carolina, continuing the percentage of searches for trade-up homes, 37.4% versus trade-up home listings at 29.1%. It's a little bit tighter there. Those two numbers are meeting a little bit more closely than with some others that we have seen. So there might not be as much pressure, still pressure. I mean, there's still a discrepancy, but just not that full 10% that we've seen in so many other communities. The percentage of searches for premium homes is 38.6% versus the premium home listings at 60.9% of the market. Interesting that premium homes make up that number of the inventory that comes out. Is that the lowest number we've seen? No. Tampa, St. Petersburg had 58.5. The rest were much higher. But it's interesting to note that there are simply fewer premium homes in that market than a lot of others. Let's go ahead and jump on to number 3 on our list. And that is Charlotte, North Carolina. Yet another city that was also ranked one of the best places to live. It came in at number 14 on our list yesterday. So just much more interesting data to relate to a city that is also supposed to be one of the best places to live, according to the folks at U.S. News. The percentage of searches for starter homes was 20.3. The number of homes listed that were starter homes was 11.3% of the inventory. So again, under 10%, but not by much. The percentage of searches for trade-up homes was 34.1. The number of homes listed that were trade-up homes was 20.4. So about a 14% discrepancy between those two. The percentage of searches for premium homes was 45.6, and the premium homes that were listed was 68.3, which gave us a little bit more than 20%. So a little bit more lopsided at the premium end, a little bit narrower at the trade-up end. So you might even be, again, this might be another community where finding some space between those two might actually be the sweet spot. And also use another tactic that you can use, and this is something I've brought up in previous shows, is finding out what is happening with price banding. And that's a term that I use to refer to a situation in different marketplaces where you see different levels of activity in terms of how long homes are on the market, how many offers come in, based on price bands, where what's really bizarre is sometimes you'll find a price, it's not usually, in many cases, not a slope that just simply goes up. Oftentimes you'll find that there is a price band where homes really sell fast and they tend to sell for over asking price. And then maybe the next band up, that all completely reverses. It takes a whole lot longer to get a home sold. It doesn't tend to sell for asking price, usually sells for a little bit less. And then one price band up from that, suddenly that reverses again, and you start to see faster selling homes that sell for asking price or more. Not paying attention to that, I think, is something that can really hamper you in terms of pricing if you're a seller. Knowing those things are important. If you're just a few dollars away from a price band where if you were in that other price band, you potentially would do better. Remember, all of these are based on the types of searches that buyers do. So your home may not even show up because you're in the wrong band for a certain type of search that's going on. I think merging that understanding with this data could also pay off in terms of getting better results. All right. So Charlotte, North Carolina, we already discussed all the numbers there. So let's go ahead and go to number 2. Houston, Texas. Houston just barely made our list at number 20 yesterday. So it made the top 20 of most desirable places to live, but it did come in at 20th. Came in number 2 in terms of the discrepancies between the folks who are doing the shopping and what they have to choose from. The percentage of searches for starter homes was 17%. Interesting that there's so few. Remember, we've talked about an awful lot of places over this list. Is that the lowest number we have? No. San Antonio has 12.2% in terms of the number of percentage of searches that were for starter homes. It's interesting that Houston has also a very low number of 17%. And the starter home listings made up 5.7%. So again, the same discrepancy in terms of it being a relatively large discrepancy, but interesting that a much smaller segment of the population that's buying is searching at that level. Now, the percentage of searches for trade-up homes was 33.8 versus the trade-up home listings at 19.1. That's a pretty dramatic discrepancy. That screams market that needs to be served. And what's great is that's usually the bulge in the marketplace, right? The folks who are looking for that trade-up home, and this would be right next to that potentially higher end first purchase. Remember, we've talked in previous shows about millennials being less calibrated to the quote unquote starter home. Many of them have indicated an interest in skipping doing the starter home thing, saving longer, and then buying the home that would satisfy their family needs moving forward based on the assumption that they might have some children, those types of things. So I think that this gives us some interesting insights because I think what happens is that trade-up home, where you would go from a starter home with maybe just 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms, isn't really the starter home. You end up with those folks saving up longer to join into this. Now, as I said, the percentage of searches for trade-up homes, 33.8 versus the trade-up home listings are 19.1. That's a pretty big discrepancy. Shows that market in this particular city really needs to be served. So you can go into your meat and potatoes investment scenario and do the flips at that price point, at that not 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom home mark, but that 3-4 bedroom mark where folks are looking to do that trade up and have a lot bigger of a potential number of folks looking at that price point. Now, the percentage of searches for premium homes in Houston, Texas is 49.2 versus premium home listings of 75.2. The premium home listings are dominating this marketplace. And what's really fun, I would love to see the numbers for this for places like San Francisco. I'm sure it's going to be interesting there as well. Interesting enough, San Francisco, I don't think there is a California city on this list. So the greatest discrepancies are not overall, when you average it out, the overall discrepancies are not greatest in any California city. It's been hit pretty hard, actually, in terms of just so many Texas cities and a few North Carolina ones as well. Now let's go ahead and hit number one. Number one on our list, with an average of 17.5%, is Dallas, Texas. Yet another city that was on our list of the best cities to live in came in at number 15. The percentage of searches for starter homes, 18.1% versus starter home listings of 6.2%. The percentage of searches, and again, a relatively low number given the marketplace, right? There are, in terms of the number of buyers out there doing searches that are at that starter home level. The percentage of searches for trade-up homes is about the same. Houston and Dallas seem to be kind of barking up the same tree when it comes to these numbers. The percentage of searches for trade-up homes, 32% versus the trade-up homes listing of 17.6%. So they actually have nearly the same number in terms of folks looking, but Dallas has even fewer homes that fit the bill in terms of being a trade-up home, which indicates to me that's, again, a pretty dominant sweet spot if you're an investor looking to provide flipped homes or building homes, whatever it is you're doing. Now, the percentage of searches for premium homes in Dallas is 49.9% versus the premium home listings of 76.2%. Again, lots and lots. The market is dominated by premium homes in Dallas, apparently, but only about half of the folks, which is also a pretty big number. Same number for Houston. 49% are out there looking for those premium homes. Now, I hope this has been an interesting bit of info for you. It's definitely a great way to at least get started in analyzing where some of the most demand is, or more where the most pent-up demand could be in terms of disconnects between what folks want and what's available in the inventory. And you might even be able to build yourself a decent strategy based on those numbers. And hopefully you've gotten more value out of this information than the time you spent listening to me go on about it. So I appreciate you taking the time to spend with me. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time.